Many people have asked me why I decided to appear with Kent Hovind, and a few discouraged me from doing this. My reason for being here is solely that I believe Hovind is a proliferator of scientific illiteracy, and I want to do what I can to make the public aware of the fallacies of his arguments. Hovind might say that evolution is a religion. Well, he's entitled to his opinion, but it's clearly been stated in the 1994 Pelosi decision that evolution defines a biological concept, and Pelosi's complaint was rejected because the Supreme Court has held unequivocally that while belief in a divine creator of the universe is a religious belief, the scientific theory that higher forms of life have evolved from lower forms is not. So, definition's fine, but the courts aren't buying it. Well, he might then go on about evolution being only a theory. I'm sure sick and tired of hearing that one. You're darn right it's a theory. And here are some other things, natural phenomena, that are also only theories. The sphericity of the Earth, gravity, atomic theory, electric theory. They're all very good theories. Now, what is a theory? A good theory is a hypothesis which has been subjected to many tests. They are never proven absolutely true. They're based upon long-term observation and correlation. They're not believed but accepted provisionally. They're strengthened as data from different disciplines are explained, and they make predictions that can be tested. And the evidence showing that evolution has occurred is stronger than that which shows that the planets go around the sun, because it comes from a wider variety of areas.
What Dr. Bartelt is doing here is what's called bait and switch in advertising. She's giving one definition of evolution and saying it's just the theory of evolution is just like gravity and things like that. What they mean by that definition of evolution is microevolution, minor changes. But what they do is they sneak in, once people accept that definition, they sneak in all sorts of other things that have to do with macroevolution. So watch for the bait and switch tactic, which is, of course, illegal to do in advertising. You can't advertise a new Lincoln for $10,000, and when you show up to buy it, you find out it's a skateboard or a Toyota. That's illegal. But by not giving the other real definition of evolution, they do this. She mentions her purpose is to fight against my scientific illiteracy. That is precisely my purpose in life, is to fight against the illiteracy scientifically in the theory of evolution. It is bankrupt. There is no evidence to support it at all. So watch for this.
One of the frequently asked questions at Hovind's website is, how would you answer critics like Madsen, Babinski, and Bartelt who have written bad things about you? Bad things, Kent? Well, Dave Madsen has written this point-by-point refutation of Hovind's young Earth arguments. This is available. You can download this from the web. Ed Babinski has written this smaller pamphlet detailing some evangelical Christians who think that the Earth is old. And this is available from Mr. Babinski.
Karen, these comments that these fellows have made, Babinski and Madsen, I have read very carefully, and I certainly appreciate anyone who criticizes my ministry. Critics can be your best friend. They can show you things that you're saying that are wrong, and I have definitely made some changes because of their comments. But if there's any particular individual one you'd like me to comment on, I'd certainly be glad to, on the books that these guys have written about me. The answers that they give to my questions and the criticism they give is absolutely silly, and I felt was not even worth an answer. I'd certainly be glad to debate them or anybody else publicly, and I'd be glad to come debate at any university or college that you know of. I think anyone who reads their answers or reads their comments with an open mind, if they have any questions about it, please call me. I'll be glad to answer anything they have written. I just didn't feel like it was worth wasting time to answer that big book. Like Nehemiah, in the book of Nehemiah, he was asked to come down and stop his great work while they discussed some things with him. His enemies asked him to do that. He said, I'm doing a great work. I cannot come down. So I haven't taken time to answer all their critics, but I certainly would be willing to if you'd like to call on the phone, but I will not respond in writing because it simply takes too long. Thank you.
My lone contributions were a letter to the Peoria Journal-Star in 1993 disputing some of Hovind's assertions, and a few calls to the media after I found out that Hovind had misrepresented himself by saying he had scheduled a debate with Stephen Jay Gould.
Karen, the church that was having me speak in Boston did indeed contact Stephen Gould, or told me that they had, and told me that they had a debate scheduled for Stephen Gould. I did not misrepresent myself. I honestly thought there was one coming to pass, and I'm still willing to debate Stephen Jay Gould. So that was not a misrepresentation. Please don't say things like that.
Why do we say these bad things? Because Hovind's website and seminar notebook are monuments to scientific illiteracy. They contain incorrect information, outdated information, and misrepresentations of scientific principles, all of them straw men. Hovind calls his mistakes gnats, and let's see what you think. The geologic column is a concept fundamental to geology and is one of those big pieces of evidence that supports biological evolution. These sedimentary layers are laid down such that the lowest layer is normally the oldest and contains the least complex life forms. As one goes to higher and higher layers, we see the emergence of more complex life forms. Accusations concerning the geologic column abound in Hovind's publications. He asserts that the geologic column does not exist in the world anywhere except in textbooks, and that it was made up by evolutionists to discredit the Bible. What is the reality? Well, first of all, a complete geologic column exists in North Dakota and at least 26 other... Time? A complete geologic column exists in North Dakota and at least 26 other basins of the world. Was it devised by evolutionists? No. It was devised by Christian creationist geologists like William Smith. William Smith was a creationist. He devised the geologic column in the early 1800s when Darwin was a baby. The geologic column was in wide use by 1830, almost 30 years before Darwin even wrote Origin of the Species. Now, most places do not have a complete geologic column. Illinois does not. And in some places there's been erosion. Some places there never was any rock in the first place. But as in this rock cut, sometimes the layers are folded. And sometimes they're even heaved up on younger strata. But none of these facts invalidates using the geologic column for determining the relative age of fossils. And anyone who has taken an introductory college course in geology knows this. Do evolutionists construct the geologic column? No, it's field geologists, often those in the petroleum industry, and they often know little of evolution and could care less. Here is a geologic map of Kansas constructed by oil geologists. Well, the geologic column has contributed to what we know about horse evolution, and here is what Hovind has to say. He says, they have taken critters from all over the world, South America, Europe, and Asia, and put them together in a predetermined area. They have already decided to start off with the smallest to largest animals. That is not the way they are found. So what Hovind is suggesting here is that scientists are being purposely deceitful. And if that's true, why don't you come up with a list of specific scientists and exactly what fossils you think are out of order? Your English teachers back at EP High would have a heyday correcting your vague allegations. He continues, they find them in different layers, but they have it in the textbooks that the Eohippus slowly changes into Equus, the modern horse. That's baloney. The only baloney here is what Hovind has written, so much that you might consider a hot link to the Oscar Mayer website. Hovind clearly doesn't understand that horses don't change into other horses, but that species branch. And here's a slide showing most of the fossil forms associated with horse evolution. Hovind again says, modern horses are found in layers lower than the Eohippus. Eohippus, Equus. If there is a particular Eocene Equus fossil, I challenge Hovind to submit his findings to a reputable scientific journal. And finally, he says, the Eohippus is nothing more than the hyrax running around South America today. Oh, really? The hyrax is not a horse at all. It's not even in the same order. And it doesn't live in South America. It lives in Asia Minor, in Ethiopia, and was known in the Bible as a coney. Does this look like a horse to you? Sometimes ancestral traits show up in modern forms, as one sees in this three-toed horse. Well, Hovind has a lot to say about feathers, too. Hovind does not know the difference between the chemical that gives carrots their color and the chemical that makes feathers and scales. In this excerpt from his website, he calls keratin carotene. A real scientist would know the difference between the two of these, and yet he wants you to believe that he knows something about feathers. Well, what about feathers? Hovind claims that there are no intermediate forms between feathers and scales, that feathers are very complex, that they came from different genes, and that no missing links have ever been found. Feathers look complex, but they're actually very simple serial repeats. And an interesting experiment lately is that by using a mutant form of an enzyme, scientists were actually able to. Many people have asked me why I decided to appear with Kent Hovind, and a few discouraged me from doing this. My reason for being here is solely that I believe Hovind is a proliferator of scientific illiteracy, and I want to do what I can to make the public aware of the fallacies of his arguments. Gravity, atomic theory, electric theory. They're all very good theories. Now, what is a theory? A good theory is a hypothesis which has been subjected to many tests. They are never proven absolutely true. They're based upon. Hovind might say that evolution is a religion. Well, he's entitled to his opinion, but it's clearly been stated in the 1994 Pelosi decision that evolution defines a biological concept, and Pelosi's complaint was rejected by it. Well, he might then go on about evolution being only a theory. I'm sure sick and tired of hearing that one. You're darn right it's a theory. And here are some other things, natural phenomena, that are also only theories. The sphericity of the earth, because the Supreme Court has held unequivocally that while belief in a divine creator of the universe is a religious belief, the scientific theory that higher forms of life have evolved from lower forms is not. So, definition's fine, but the courts aren't.